Egg eating is one of the silent profit killers in agriculture. There is nothing as annoying as when you come into your farm and you're about to pick eggs and you're seeing several broken eggs, like several cracked eggs. Why? Because your birds have started eating their eggs. Yes, if you're today's years old, if you've not known this before, nobody has ever told you before, birds eat their eggs. When I mean birds, I mean laying birds can eat their children. Laying birds can eat their eggs. And if your birds are eating your eggs, this particular episode is for you. Love agriculture or you love listening to me, this particular episode is for you. Go into poultry farming in the future, this particular episode is also for you. Sent me a message recently. A friend of mine, he just got into farming and he asked me, he just noticed that his birds are pecking, are eating, or rather eating their eggs, which means that before he comes to pick his eggs, he will see like some of them have, the birds have already pecked the eggs and they have sucked out the juice from the egg. So of course, which means it's less profit for him, which means it's loss of profit, no profit for him. Well, this is what I told him, and this is what might help you while watching this vlog. If you're just joining me, welcome to the Fitness Farmers page. And on this page, this is where we teach agriculture, lifestyle, farming, anything, health. Do not go off. Just get your popcorn, relax, and enjoy this vlog. You know that feeling of when you walk into a poultry house and you're expecting to pack like a basket of eggs, and instead you now come and you don't see eggs at all, or you see half of your eggs, or you find your eggs broken on the floor. For a farmer, that is loss of profit. That happened to me before. I remember when I started farming, I was a new farmer. My birds started pecking their eggs. They would take I would have more than half of the crate broken eggs, like eggs that the birds have sucked off their juices. At first, I thought it was because they have beaks. I now depict them. For people that are just joining or will not know the meaning of depicking is the process of trimming your bird's beak so that they don't injure themselves and they don't peck their eggs, and it's actually better for laying birds. But even after depicking the birds, these birds were still eating my eggs, which means they're eating into my profits, they're eating into my sweat, they're eating into my investments. So of course, I'm sharing this with you today because egg eating is one of the silent profit killers in agriculture. Many people lose money to these habits, like they lose a lot. And the worst part is if you do not act fast, once a bird starts pecking or eating the eggs, others will learn and they start pecking and eating their eggs. This is one of the problems that you encounter in agriculture. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you the truth about why the birds drink their eggs, the method I use to prevent my birds from drinking their eggs, and also I'm going to answer common questions from farmers like you who have asked me. These are things that people don't really talk about on why do birds peck their eggs and how you can stop them from pecking their eggs. So let's start with the science behind it. What will make your bird drink their child? I used to call it drinking your children. What will make your birds peck your eggs? Number one is nutrition. When a bird does not have enough calcium or protein, it looks for that thing somewhere else. It's like a pregnant woman. Pregnant women that have cravings. Let's say they have cravings for, this unzu. There's a particular chalk that some pregnant women crave to eat. And when they crave to eat that chalk, the chalk is called unzu or ulo, ULO, because I am Igbo, I'm calling it in my dialect. But that chalk is usually, when they crave that thing, it's usually because of iron deficiency in their body. So same also with the layers. And unfortunately, the easiest place to get this, protein that they lack or calcium that they seem to lack is from their eggs. Just think as calcium as cement that holds the eggs together. Without that cement, there are no eggs. And that's why sometimes when your birds lay eggs, you will see a kind of weak shell. That's another topic altogether. Sometimes you will see that some of the eggs are actually transcolent, like they're soft. They have weak shells. Those thin shell backs that, once they break, they can easily break. It's actually due to lack of calcium. And it's easier for the birds to break into them and drink. That is number one cause. Number one cause is lack of calcium or protein. Number two cause is when you see chickens are naturally curious birds. For example, have you ever asked why all their drinkers or plates are in colors red and white? Is because chickens, identify colors. They are curious. So that is another reason why they will peck their eggs. Sometimes it might not be due to calcium or the lack of protein, but out of curiosity, they will just go and peck the eggs. Once a hen has tasted that yolk, she's hooked, addicted to that yolk. So once a hen, out of curiosity, pecks that egg that she laid and has tasted the forbidden fruit, is over. The hen tends to try to peck in the eggs to drink the juice. Now for birds on the floor, that is birds without battery cages, it is easier to peck their eggs. But if you're a farmer and you have battery cages, these cages makes it hard for the bird to point the beak to peck their eggs. They still do if they go under the cages, but it is harder. Number 3, boredom. That's another cause. When your hens don't have enough space, they are overcrowded, because naturally hens scratch or peck and they move around, create entertainment or eat. They like to scratch at it. When you keep your birds on the ground, you will see them moving around, walking, scratching the surface. Now when they're in their cages or they are crowded or they cannot move, as some form of entertainment or curiosity to themselves, they just peck. So if your birds have done it before, indicate in the comment section, because for me, it is a regular occurrence with me when my birds peck their eggs. Any of those reasons. It can be lack of calcium, it can be overcrowding, it can also be curiosity. In this vlog, I am going to be treating the causes and how you can reduce this egg pecking for new farmers. Now let us talk about the causes these farmers overlook. Farmers don't understand what they're doing wrong most of the time, especially new farmers. So when my friend, who is a new farmer, sent me this, told me, please, my birds are pecking their eggs. What can I do? What is the reason? This is the first thing that I told him. First, overcrowding. How many birds are in your pen? Because more birds means more pressure. Like more birds means more stress and more broken eggs. The standard size for a standard size pen, to me, it's about 3 birds. But most farmers stretch it to 4. By the time you are hitting your 5th bird in one cell, I'm talking about a cell unit, not a full cage, it is overcrowding. Same too with the chickens too. When they're overcrowded, their mood gets bad. So out of that irritability, they start pecking their eggs. That is number 1 cause that can lead, if you are losing eggs in your farm, you should look at overcrowding. Number 2, weak nests. These are for farmers that don't have battery cages and their birds are in nests or like in places. You know what I mean by nests? They have nesting boxes. These kind of farmers, if you do not bother with creating the proper nest boxes where your hens will balance and lay eggs very well, if they are dropping on the cement, it is likely that they will break because other hens that will pass will break the eggs. Number 3 is egg collection. Now, when I started farming, I realized that when my birds started pecking, my workers pick eggs 2 times in a day, which means in the morning and then they pick in the evening. But when this pecking got too much, this is another way you can reduce pecking. You increase the amount of times that you pick your eggs. For example, if they pick eggs around 11, they can pick eggs around 3 o'clock and around 5. That is the last egg for the day. So I increased from 2 times to 3 times a day, or just randomly, in order to reduce these egg pecking. Eggs too long. The battery cages on the floor. If you have your birds on the floor, you're inviting disaster, my sister. Because when I started collecting these eggs like morning, afternoon, and night, rates at which my eggs were being pecked greatly reduced from 50% to just 20 or 15%. Why? Because I started picking eggs morning, afternoon, and night. So I learned that your eggs need to be collected at least 3 to 4 times in a day, especially when you have many layers. Please do not forget this. We have talked about the cause on why they peck, and I've given advices on things you can to reduce the pecking, but we have not talked about the solution. What is the solution I do to reduce the bird from pecking? Number 1 is giving them a balanced feed. See, give your birds a proper layer feed. Most farmers, I won't call it most, sorry, let me just say most. Some farmers shortchange themselves. They go for those cheap feeds that do not have the quality nutrients. I don't want to call the feed brands I use. I don't want to call any feed brand, but you know the quality brand and you're considering the price of that brand. So you will not want to buy that brand for your birds because of money. Ego, owo, kudi, cash. So in order to save yourself that cash, you go for low quality feeds. What do you expect? Those low quality feeds do not contain the right calcium and protein that your birds need to balance their bodies. And if they don't contain those things they need, they peck. But for me, what cuts down the amount of eggs that got cracked, or rather when my birds stopped pecking, was when I changed their feed. If you go down my page, you'll see where I talked about feed and I called a particular brand and how I changed to a higher brand. Once I changed to that brand, the rate at which my birds stopped pecking reduced 50% to 10%. So people actually rear birds on the ground. Some farmers have what they call nesting boxes where their birds go in to lay. Please create a proper nest box, or if your birds are on the ground, please space them. Rearing your birds on the ground, please ensure that they have adequate space, because if they're not crowded, they're not irritated, they can lay well, and they won't be too irritated to peck their eggs. So number 4, I want to call something. I noticed that light, God, why is my nose scratching me? I noticed that light gives them issues. Don't get me wrong, light is good for birds that are laying, but please, there's an intensity of light that affects birds. If you go to some farms and you see their bulbs, you will see how they even use like a waterproof to cover the bulb. Why do you think it's like that? It's because of the intensity of the light. There's light though, but it's not so bright into their eyes. It would also reduce the way your birds peck. About that. And the final one for me, the one that works best for me, is frequent collection. Let's say you have good feed, you are giving them quality feeds, they're not overcrowded, have dotted your T's and crossed your I's, and you have seen that they are still pecking. To me, I pick frequent egg collection. Tell your workers to be picking your eggs frequently. It costs nothing, especially in big farms. Create a schedule for them, of times to come to pick the eggs. It can be 4 times, it can be 5 times in a day. You should just pick eggs anytime they see the eggs on the troughs or like on the ground. If you have deep litter, just pick the egg. It's just going to reduce the egg pecking. Now, let us talk about the cost of, if you will say, okay, fitness farmer, everything you have said on this video, it is to the wind. I will ignore it. I won't take it. This is the cost of ignoring the problem. You want to ignore this problem. You don't want to take my advice. You said, no, I won't take this advice. Let us calculate it. Let's see what is the cost of ignoring this problem. Let us see how much you're losing if you do not reduce the amount of eggs that your birds eat in your farm or your birds crack. It's a loss for a farmer. So now, let's calculate this. Imagine you have 100 layers and they are supposed to give you 90 eggs a day. That is a stretch, actually. That is like a 90% production. But I'm just giving an example. But 10 birds keep on cracking and eating your eggs. Now, that's 10 eggs that are gone daily. In 1 week, that is 70 eggs. In 1 month, that is 300 eggs. Now, multiply 300 eggs at the end of the month and find out how much you're losing. So those cracked eggs, we found out that I was having almost half crate of cracked eggs every day that time. And I sat down to punch my own calculator, and I saw that it was entering into almost 100,000 naira every month due to cracked eggs. That's eating into my profits. So if the habit spread more, you could be losing hundreds of thousands in a month because of cracked eggs. This is a problem you cannot ignore. But before I close, let me answer some questions that might be randomly asked or questions that will be in your head. Can this thing be spread? Like, let's say if one bird starts pecking, can it affect the whole flock? Yes. It can affect the whole flock. Once one bird starts pecking, everybody, most birds copy, and before you know, that's why you must act fast. Another question, I don't want to buy calcium. I want to give my birds natural or use the local options. What you can do is that you can crush snail shells, you burn it and grind the bones, or you grind the seashells. And you now give it to them and they eat. In that way, you're feeding them the natural calcium. Some farmers do it, but I don't. I buy calcium directly and I give them if I find out that they have a calcium deficiency. So another thing is, can your older layers be corrected? Okay, let's say when a bird starts pecking, how do I stop this bird from pecking? As my bird have already started pecking, how do I correct that? Yes, now see, because if you don't correct it, it becomes a habit. This is how you can correct it: using quality feeds, frequent egg collection, making sure they're not overcrowded, and sometimes I isolate the worst offenders. See, some birds are troublemakers, some birds are stubborn. So when that particular bird is giving me issue, I isolate it completely into a cage, do not influence the others. And that's how I control mine. Now, another thing you would ask me, is egg eating, is it common among birds? Yes, it can actually happen in any bird at all. You can have Isa brown, you can have noilers, you can have different types of birds. All birds, it can happen if you do not pay attention to the factors that I listed in this video. I just thought to just do this because of the question I had from my friend who just started farming and he noticed this. And I said, why don't I talk about it? See, there's what they call closing profits in farming. There is nothing like a small loss or a big loss. In our business, it's mostly turnover. So if you do not have the discipline to watch your small losses, your farm might die silently. So you have to face your problems early, like egg eating. It's going to save your investment. It's going to make you grow bigger. You see that 100,000 naira or 200,000 naira you might be losing in a month. That's okay, you have 1 crate of cracked eggs in a day. Let's say you have a big farm A crate of egg right now, it's about 5.8 farmer's price, 5,558 farmer's price. Calculate that in a month, in 30 days. You're losing over 200,000. Is it worth it? It's a small loss, but it's a huge loss. So you need to tighten the corners of those small losses. And these are the factors that help you keep your birds in check. Remember, every egg counts. To me, every egg counts. Every cracked shell, money is gone for me. I do not take it lightly. Every cracked egg, that money is gone. I try to find out what is the reason for this cracked egg. Why are my birds losing eggs? In this video, please just hit the subscribe button, like my video, because here I share real farming stories. I share authentic stories of my experience and the experience of others or things that I face on the daily. And please, the birds are eating your eggs. Apply these tips and come back in 2 weeks and tell me if you won't see results. Let's learn and grow together as a community. Thank you for coming to my vlog, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.